Somos libres, seamos los siempre, seamos los siempre.
My name is James Brown, and I'm back with you for our second installment. And today we're going to be talking about Peru's journey to the 1930 World Cup. And I'm here with Eduardo Combe. And Eduardo, thank you very much for being with us. I came across Eduardo's article recently, and this is an article that was written in 2017 on the website Depor. Eduardo is a journalist, a sports journalist, and he wrote a fantastic article talking about the Peruvian national team's journey towards the World Cup. And it is so well described that you can visualize everything from start to finish. And I welcome anybody and everybody to take a look at the article and even to get back to Eduardo about any questions or comments. But I think you will thoroughly enjoy it. And as we've talked about in our small departure posts, such as this is, we're just going to talk about the team, the national team, how they came to be, and their journey all the way down to Montevideo.
An investigation of the Peruvian national team 5 years ago, more or less. And it's very curious because here you can find a lot of things from the team to qualify to 1970 World Cup in Mexico from today. It's a lot of information, photos, videos, whatever you can imagine, you can find. But before this famous match in La Bombonera in 1969, when Peru qualified to this World Cup, it's very difficult to find information or any photo, video is impossible, about the Peruvian national team. 1940 decade is like it's 2006. 1950, but 1930 too. But in 1930, Peru qualified or participated in the World Cup, won a Bolivian Games, went to Olympic Games, and won a Copa America. So it's a very good era, right? But in 1930, Peru participated in the first ever World Cup in Uruguay, and now here no one knows about that. No one's really. So I start to investigate because I'm a little fan of this team. No, it's the first ever World Cup. No, I spent a lot of months only reading newspapers. El Comercio, La Crónica, La Prensa. They in this year. The articles were very with a great description of the things. Whatever you can find a match, a friendly match, or a preparation match with a very good description. So I can imagine that the football players talk about a lot of things in this day. They can tell you or tell the reporters whatever you can imagine too. So I read that, took the information, and write the articles only with that. Photos is not very good photos, but there are some important photos. And went to Pocitos, Centenary Museum, and Centenary Stadium. In Pocitos were located a stadium where Peru played their first ever match in a World Cup against Romania in July. Peru lost. Peru lost, and then in the first ever match in Centenary Stadium, Peru played again and against against Uruguay. And it's very important to to stay there. It's very important. If you are a very fan to the World Cup in this year, it's very important to visit Uruguay, because you can find these historic places. And for example, in the Centenarius Museum, you can find the only Peruvian jersey that exists today from this World Cup that Antonio Maquilón gave in 1981. Antonio Maquilón was the captain in the second match against Uruguay. In the first was Plácido Galindo against Romania. Well, it's a very hard work, but very beautiful investigation too. And this year, the football obviously was different from today. Very, very different. I can believe that the reporters wrote a lot of bad things about the Peruvian team. They asked in these articles, why Peru have to go to a World Cup. Just imagine that from today, in Russia, that we said, hey, why Peru have to go to Russia and participate to a World Cup? You can find this in 1930. And Uruguay is in this year. Go to Uruguay is 2 weeks of travel in sea and by train. Peru went to Arica in Chile. They visited Tacna, and but by a boat. And then in a boat they went to Valparaíso. They met the Chilean team, and by train, cross the Andes, goes to Argentina to took a boat and go to Pocitos, where Peru was located. They in Uruguay with the 30 teams, right? They made the draw. How many teams? Finally.
Yeah, and there ended up, they were supposed to have 14 teams.
Yes.
But the Egyptian team, who they were on their way, they were on their way from Alexandria to meet with the Yugoslavian team to head over on the MS Florida.
Yes.
But they did not make it in time, and the MS Florida with Yugoslavia left without them. So apparently Egypt tried to petition to come later, a few days later, but that petition was denied because it was just too late. They would get there too late, and everything was already being organized. So that's why there are only 13 teams instead of 14 as scheduled.
In a very hilarious article here, Peru played their first match against Romania. And in this year, no one knows about Romania.
Yeah.
You see, a European team, wow, but no more. Uruguay is done. Peru played against Uruguay twice, and Uruguay came here in the 20s and played a lot of friendly matches here in Lima. Peruvians admires Uruguay in football. Obviously, they won twice the Olympic Games in 2040 and 28. They come to Lima a lot of times. Say call in Uruguay. I'm called in Uruguay is not the same to say I'm called in Lima.
Okay, I understand. Yeah.
Okay. In Lima, you are not called. You have to go to Cusco to, in my experience, to say I'm called. But in Lima, no. It's not. It's a little cold. But in Uruguay, is 3 times cold than in Lima.
Tell me more about the selection of the coach, because that's a very interesting story in terms of the origin of the Peruvian coach.
Well, 2 months ago, to travel to
2 months
Uruguay.
prior to traveling. Yeah.
In March, Peru is a team with no coach. No coach. Alejandro Góngora from Alianza Lima was the responsible from this team. But you say, well, in the Peruvian Federation say, I know we need an international coach because in 27 and 29, Peru have had Uruguayan coaches. But for this World Cup, they want a Spaniard coach, Francisco Paco Bru, a former Barcelona player. And they came here with 2 months ago, in May. In the first week from May, they came to Peru. But in this year, if you're a Spaniard and come to Peru, you didn't know anything about the country. Imagine the players. He came here and say, well, what they have.
So the coach comes from Spain. Where has the team been selected from? Were there a number of trial matches? Was this the existing national team from the year before that was just reconvened and they said, okay, the same team that we used last year, we're going to use this year for the World Cup?
No. 1 year ago, 1 year before, Copa America in Argentina and lost the 3 matches. But before the travel, 7 Alianza Lima players left the team with a problem. They were not agree with federation decisions. Peruvian Federation doesn't have money. It's not money in the Peruvian Federation.
So is it a story of professionalism and amateurism?
Peruvians football start to be professional in 1951, 21 years later. Say, well, we need to play matches. So you play against, and you play against too, and we can find the money.
Mm-hmm.
But Alianza Lima players say, no, Alianza Lima, it's impossible to say to another team can want the level that Alianza Lima have. Alianza Lima was the best team in 30s and 90s. We are not agree, and they left. So they were suspended, and the club was suspended too. Okay, come back Alianza, come back the players. So Paco Bru, here in Lima, they found a team. The Peruvian Federation said, well, this is our list of 30 players.
Okay.
Well, he didn't know who were Alejandro Villanueva, Juan Valdivieso, Plácido Galindo, Antonio Maquilón. He came here.
Before leaving, they played the national team selection. They were going through tryouts.
Mm-hmm. No.
So we had an enormous amount of players who were selected to play the first match. And then the second match, against teams from New York. So they're all local teams within the northeastern region, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, you see. So that was the best way for the federation to see how the players that they invited would play against the strongest teams in the league at that moment.
Here, the 1920 Peruvian national team play against Alianza Lima. Just remember the 29 national team, 7 players from Alianza Lima left this team. So the federation say, well, we need money. What we can do? Hey, 2090 Peruvian national team against Alianza Lima. Ooh, it's a great match, right? The best team in this moment against the national team. Alianza Lima won 2-0 this match. in the official debut, Paco's Blue debut.
Okay.
Alianza Lima won, and Paco Blue say, well, they have to come here with me, right? Then Olimpia from Paraguay came to Lima. Because they travel. They came to Lima, but they didn't came to play. They came to Lima because the travel, they needs to stop in Lima. In sea travel, right?
Okay, so did they go with you and Chile at the same time?
The travel.
Oh, before.
Olimpia
Okay.
came to Lima, came because they have to stay here because this boat have to.
Right.
Olimpia here, we need to play, and they played 3 matches against here is the name is Combinado Chalaco. That is a team from players from Callao. Then Olimpia played against Alianza Lima, and finally Olimpia played against the Combinado Limeño. That is a team with players born in Lima. Combinado Chalaco, Combinado Limeño, and Combinado and Alianza Lima.
Good.
And with Olimpia, because Olimpia have to go to Paraguay, Peru travel, start they travel to Uruguay. With a lot of people in Callao port. A lot of people, it's incredible. It's football in 1930, but a lot of people went to say goodbye to the team. Because 2 years ago, when Peru traveled to Russia, people go to the street, right? But they go by airplane. But in this year, people go to the port. You have see the photos with a lot of people with their hats, and say goodbye to the players. But let's remember, in the year you can see the players only in person, or in photos, right? No television, no social media. So if you want to see your idol, you have to go to a stadium, or we're a very lucky person to meet there in the streets. So
that's true. Yeah.
The travel was a very good moment to see your football idols in this year.
That you can give, a team must be extremely touched and honored, to have so many people come and wish them the best, for a tournament that they really know nothing about.
Yeah.
Just until then, they've known the Copa America and they've known the Olympics, just these idea of these tournaments, but these tournaments, they just still don't understand the amplitude of what the 1930 World Cup was all about. Yeah.
In 1930, because they have the level of the team and the money. Yeah. But it's filler, right? Right now, it's impossible to say, why we have to go to the World Cup. It's an impossible idea to say. But in this year, no. But it's another era too.
It was very fortunate that the World Cup almost ended up, as of May 1930, the World Cup almost ended up just being the Cup of the Americas Cup. There was Mexico, and then all of the South American countries, but that was it, and it was because of the efforts of the Uruguayan diplomat Enrique Buero Sr., who was the Uruguayan diplomat to Belgium, who really, and efforts by Jules Rimet, but it was more the backdoor political connections that Enrique made in order to persuade the Belgian team, and then to get the Yugoslavian team, Romanian team, and really still working hard, with Rimet to get the French team. And
here in Peru, that I read, I didn't have need to read to say they were the best players in the year. and historical players that they people doesn't know one. For example, well, Alejandro Villanueva is different. He is a start now, is the most famous idol from Alianza Lima. The stadium from Alianza Lima is called Alejandro Villanueva Stadium. They need to be more to be or to stay in a historic place in this football, in Peruvian football, but they didn't. Antonio Maquilón, Luis de Souza, he scores the first goal, and Luis de Souza is so close, but very close, to not travel to Uruguay. Wow. Paco Bru presented his list, 22 players, and Peruvian Federation said, well, Paco, 22, we don't have enough money, so 20. Paco Bru said, well, Jorge Góngora and Luis de Souza, goodbye. But Universitario, their club, or in this year, Federación Universitaria, say, hey, wait a moment, please. How much? This, well, boom, we pay for this too.
Oh,
Luis de Souza went to the World Cup for this very curious thing. He scores the first ever Peruvian goal in the World Cup. But when Paco Bru, in these years, is not usual that a player from my country or whatever country play in another country too, right?
Yeah.
But Julio Lores, the striker, a Peruvian striker, played in Necaxa from Mexico, and his father went to the Peruvian Federation and said, hey, I have a son who plays in Mexico, and they just have their vacations from May to July. Or May, August, 3 months from vacation, because in their vacations, Lores came to Peru. So this travel is not a 6 hours travel, right?
I know. Because the
3 weeks.
So how long? So when did he come from Mexico?
He came just in his only match that he played before the World Cup was against Olimpia in El Combinado Limeño, in the Limean team.
Okay, when was that? Was that in
Lima,
May?
Weeks ago.
Weeks before. Okay.
Weeks before they traveled to Uruguay, and Paco Bru said, "Well, he has to stay." And Julio Lores is the first ever Peruvian player from a club from another country, and but for this reason, 3 years later, he played from Mexico national team and won 2 titles in Central American football. Yes,
that's fantastic.
He died in Mexico. He didn't return to Peru after the World Cup.
Okay.
And play for Mexico. And they Mexico, and passed away in Mexico. And a lot of people doesn't know who is Julio Lores or who was Julio Lores.
Right. Oh, I think that's there's so much passion in South American football.
It's different here.
Yeah, it's very different, but it's so beautiful. It can be very heartbreaking and tragic, but nothing can replace the love that you have for your local team or your national team.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. I'm a bit the opposite. I mean, everybody says, "Who is your favorite team?" And I said, "You know what? I don't have a favorite team."
Me too.
I just love the beautiful game. For me, that's the most important. And I say, the only time I ever want someone to leave me alone is every 4 years during 1 month.
Yeah, World Cup is a great tournament, really.
It is.
Great tournament is I don't have any words to say, because to watch a World Cup or to travel to World Cup is a very good experience.
I've never done that yet, but I have to do it. I will have to do it, and I'm sure I'll do it for 2026 when the United States and Mexico and Canada host the World Cup. Yeah, maybe go to Qatar, but we'll see. But it's a great privilege to be a part of this. This great network. That's one of the reasons. That is one of the main reasons that drove me to create this 90th anniversary celebration, because I'm not only the vice president of S.A.S.H, the Society for American Soccer History in the United States, but also one of the partners and the co-organizers of the 90th anniversary celebrations that will be taking place in July in Montevideo, as well as scattered events during the fall. I say the fall meaning September, October, throughout the world. And then our main showcase is the conference that will be in March 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we will unite all people from different walks of football, whether they're public historians like you and me, journalists in general, authors, official historians from federations, but also, okay, so in the beginning we talked about wanting to focus on the 1930 World Cup and to really be able to discuss the mysteries and the romance of this first epic World Cup. And from one day to the next, from 1 week to the next, we decided to make it bigger and make it greater, and say, listen, we want to celebrate football. It's not just the 1930 World Cup, but we're treating many topics, talking about women's football and the rise and the importance of women's football, and also their impact in different levels, whether it's on a player's level, coaching level, refereeing level, administrative level, and talking about technology and football. How controversial, how effective is VAR? Is it slowing down the game? Is it really helping us to solve the problems? Should we get rid of VAR? All these things are going to be debated with people coming, like yourself and myself, to talk about specific topics about national teams, as well as so those are speaker presentations and panel. There will be panels. Maybe we'll have one panel talking about women's subjects, another panel talking about memorabilia and the importance of memorabilia from the 1930 World Cup and the problems that come with it. Because there have been a lot of counterfeiting issues with 1930 memorabilia, since at least the past 20 years, 25 years. And it's only going to get worse as we get closer to the 100th anniversary of the World Cup. So we want to treat these issues and really have an open debate, as well as talking about the main figures, Jules Rimet from FIFA, and the lesser known Enrique Buero from Uruguay, the ambassador to Belgium, and their roles, how they walked kind of hand in hand towards the World Cup. But then after a moment, Enrique kind of fell underneath, and he fell by the wayside for a while and was overshadowed by Jules Rimet and this myth that was being carefully constructed and, you know, so and appropriated by URIME and by FIFA. So it's also about honoring the people who worked extremely hard to get this first World Cup, to the honor and the tribute that they deserve, like Enrique Buero.
Yeah.
So I've had the pleasure of meeting the grandson of Jules Rimet.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, his grandson lives in the south of France, Yves Rimet. And I've also met with Juan Buero Harley, who is the grandson of Enrique Buero Sr. So I've had great pleasure in meeting these people who are connected, with the very start of the World Cup, and how passionate they are about these subjects. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with me and to share your fantastic, greatly written article about the Peruvian national team and their journey down to the World Cup. I look forward to having you back with me so that we can talk about the, going through game summaries and talking about the preparation once they're down in Montevideo and going through their matches and, the trials and tribulations that they came up against.
Thank to you first. It was a incredible conversation. I said I'm a little fan of this 1930 Peruvian national team. So as you say, I'm very passionate to want information. And when I found or still finding information too, for me it's incredible. And just in one month, will be the 90th anniversary, right? I wish I can still writing about this Peruvian national team. Now is any secrets too from this team. Yeah. I didn't find anything too. It's impossible, right? It's impossible. But as you say, when you found or when you read, or when I read another countries' publications, you have a better idea. We're now very, very good people with this team. I found articles here in Lima that say practically that we have a very bad team to go to the World Cup.
That's one of the first things that I decided to do when I said, okay, I want to learn everything about my grandfather's career as a striker for the U.S. national team, but also when he played for Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur in the 1930s. I said, okay, I'm going to go and find every season, every team, every match report, but not just the newspaper article from the home team, but the newspaper article from the away team. So that way I had a 360-degree viewpoint of that one match.
Yeah.
And sometimes you would read some very, very different comments about the match. So it allows you to have a complete picture analysis of that subject when you search the opposing team's opinions, or the opposing countries in this case, because you can very well seek out Bolivia, Paraguay, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, Uruguay. You can contact all of their historians or journalists, journalists like yourself, and say, hey, go and dig out information about the Peruvian national team.
I just remember something. When Peru returns to Lima, 2 weeks after the match against Uruguay, they return with Mexico national team, because Mexico have to go to Lima and then go to Mexico. But when they came, people against are waiting in the port in Callao, in El Callao. A lot of people want to see their idols, and they say, "Hey, Jorge Pardón, the goalkeeper." They were to the newspaper to listen the match. A lot of people went to the newspaper only to listen the match. The newspaper read the information, and like the radio, and people, hey, and they imagine, well, it's real, that Jorge Pardón played very well against Uruguay. And they say, hey, Jorge Pardón, and people go from him, and poof, you have to imagine that, right? When you, in this year,
that's fantastic.
reach in the arms, and Jorge Pardón, I have a photo with from there, Jorge Pardón with the people. I have to find it. I have to want it.
I would love to see that picture. That's a great picture.
I want to want it. I don't know if I have this or I have to go to the library to find it. And Jorge Pardón, in this day, was the idol when Peru returns to Lima.
The best Peruvian player being taken up on the arms, on the shoulders of the people, as he comes off the boat. That's really quite special. Thanks again so much, Eduardo. Okay, and we'll be in touch to do another installment, getting into the nitty-gritty of the games and the atmosphere at the World Cup. Okay, so you and I will be back together in the next few weeks. Okay?
Don't worry. We'll see you again.